What is up, guys? This is TechnoShocker, and today I'm going to be showing you how to fix your sticky buttons on your Nintendo Switch Joy-Con and your Nintendo Switch Pro controller. Now, this is a very similar method to the one I showed for your Xbox One controller. In fact, it's almost to the T. This is going to show how to fix it on the Nintendo Switch. As I said in my previous video for the Xbox One, though, this does work along an entire line of controllers. Pretty much any controller that has, just the same kind of buttons on it. This just standard kind of clicky buttons on the front. And for the Nintendo Switch Joy-Con, actually, as a bonus, you can also do this method on the joystick, and I'll show you how. You cannot do this method on the Pro Controller sticks, though, so keep that in mind. Alright, so basically the problem we'll be fixing today is when you have your buttons kind of stick, so when you press them, they don't sound clicky, they just sound kind of mushy. And they still work just fine. They just won't, they don't give you that tactile feedback, and, they're giving you some problems with how they feel. We're going to show you how to fix it, and we'll get you back on your way to gaming. Alright, so what you're going to need for this is pretty simple, the same as the Xbox video. You're going to need some rubbing alcohol. Now this comes in a couple different variants, a couple different percentages. I like to go with 91%. That seems to work the best for this method here. So you're going to need some rubbing alcohol. I got this at Target for about $4, so it's a whole 32-ounce container. It'll last you a while if you're using it just for this purpose, but it's pretty cheap, and you may even have some lying around the house. So hydrogen peroxide, people have asked about that a lot. That will technically work for this method. I have heard a lot of people in the comments say it does work, but I haven't personally tested it, so it's up to you if you want to try that, but that is not the recommended thing you can use. Just to be safe, if you want to be 100%, rubbing alcohol is what I would recommend. Two things I would definitely not use is saliva and water. I've heard way too many people say in the comments that they've just used spit in their controller or just used water. That could definitely mess up your controller if you're not careful. It's possible you could get away with doing it, but it's not a good idea if you want to preserve the life of your electronics and you don't want to risk damaging them. I would stay away from that. Okay, and then in addition to the rubbing alcohol, you're also just going to need a couple Q-tips. Now, again, you can get these at your store for like a couple bucks, but chances are you may have some in your house. Alternatives for Q-tips could honestly be anything that's similar. You could use the edge of a cloth. You could use a cotton ball. You could use kind of like a soft rag or something. Just anything that has kind of like a soft tip here. Yep. That should work just fine. Alright, so step one, you're going to want to grab your controller that's giving you the issue. As I said, it could be any of the face buttons. It could be the plus button, home button, SR and SL buttons, and even the sync button if you want. And the stick, honestly. So almost every button on this controller can be fixed with this method except the triggers. I wouldn't try that. Even the release button should actually work if it's giving you some problems. But yeah, so you're just going to want to grab the rubbing alcohol. I take the cap off to make it easier. And what you're going to want to do is take one of your Q-tips and just dip it into the rubbing alcohol. You can get the whole head of the Q-tip covered in the rubbing alcohol. And you would take that Q-tip that you just got kind of doused in the rubbing alcohol, and you would run it around the button that you have that's sticking for you. So in this case, this controller is actually working pretty well, but I rubbed it around the A button, and as you can see, it's already starting to evaporate, and that's kind of why we use the rubbing alcohol, because it limits the risk of damaging your hardware because it evaporates so quickly, but it's also a really good cleaner because of the fact that it's alcohol. So after you put the rubbing alcohol on the button, you would just click it in about 50 times. So let me just do that real quick. Alright, so that was around 50 times. It doesn't need to be perfect, but if it's not, you may open a wormhole to another dimension. So make sure you do 50 times exactly. And yeah, it's going to leave a little bit of residue. That's absolutely normal. But after that happens, you're going to want to take either the same Q-tip but the other end, or a completely new Q-tip, and just kind of rub off around the button where you just put the rubbing alcohol. Pretty much the same motion, except this time you don't have anything on the Q-tip. You're kind of wiping away the dirt and grime that came off of the button when you pressed it those 50 times. So at this point, your button should be functioning just as normal. I mean, you should have it clicking again, and it should be a smooth action from this point. And you can kind of wipe off the residue with your thumb or with a shirt or with whatever you want. It kind of just comes right off. Yep, there we go. As you can see, there's kind of rings around all the buttons. That's just general wear and tear from the controller. But after you've done that, your button should be clicking just like all the others. So if you're having any problems with the button sticking, you could just use this method and get it working nice and clicky again. Now, it is very possible that your button is at the point where doing this method a single time does not fix it, or alternatively, it's possible that this method will fix your button, but then you'll start playing with the controller and find out that 15 minutes later it starts getting all gunky and mushy, all over again. So that is extremely common, and in order to fix that problem, you're going to have to just repeat this entire process 3 or 4 times roughly until you can get the button completely cleaned out and it works freshly with no problem. Okay, so that was it for the Joy-Con sticky buttons. If you want to see how to fix the joystick, if your stick is sticking a little bit, I can show you a little demonstration. So the left stick is fine. You can see it kind of clicks back into position really nicely and audibly. And the right stick, see, when I go down, it's a little slower. It doesn't want to click into place as smoothly. So similar to the other method, you just want to get the rubbing alcohol, get a swab of it with the Q-tip, and this time you're going to want to pretty much move the stick away from where you're putting the Q-tip in to give you room, see? Then you kind of just rub it inside underneath the stick there. You want to go all the way around. And when you've gone all the way around, as you can see, underneath the stick is it's got all that rubbing alcohol in there now. You would just move the stick around for around 30 seconds and click it in a couple times as well. All right, so that should be good. It does leave some wet marks from the rubbing alcohol. So again, just like the previous method, you're going to want to take a clean Q-tip this time and wipe down the inside. Exactly where you wiped down before, but this time with a dry Q-tip. All right, and as you can hear, compared to the left Joy-Con, it's clicking nicely just like the left one. So that's how you would fix the stick. The same method for the buttons does work on the Pro controller. Now that's going to work on the ABXY, plus minus, screenshot, home button, and the D-pad. This method will not work on the sticks for the Pro controller. It will not work on the ZL, ZR, R, or L buttons. But yeah, that's pretty much it. As I said, you could use this on any controller. If you wanted to use this method on the Xbox controller or the PlayStation controller, you could do that. The only thing that's exclusive to the Nintendo Switch Joy-Con at this point is the stick method, because that will not work on the Xbox, PlayStation, or Switch Pro controller, because the sticks on the Nintendo Switch are different. But yeah. So comment below how you got your controller to its sticky button state. I always love to hear those stories. I thank you for watching. I really hope I helped you out, and I'll catch you in the next one.